All right, let's dive into something pretty wild, something companies pour billions into, but you can't actually see or touch it. We're talking about branding. It's the invisible, but maybe the most powerful asset a company has. So let's peel back the layers and see how this whole thing really works. So let me ask you, what do you think is a company's most valuable asset? Your mind probably goes to the big stuff, right? Their factories, their products, maybe all the money they have in the bank. But what if I told you the real answer is something else entirely? Something that actually lives inside our own heads. And that really gets us to the core idea for today. It's this simple but powerful quote. A brand is an intangible asset with tangible value. It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? This invisible feeling that somehow creates very, very real results on a balance sheet. So, how on earth does that happen? Here's the game plan. First, we're going to figure out what a brand actually is. Then, we'll get into how they're built and how they grow into these massive icons. And finally, we're going to bring it all the way down to the one thing you can physically hold, the package, and the huge responsibilities that come with it. Okay, section 1. What is a brand? Let's push past the logos and the clever taglines and get to what's really going on, from the feeling it gives you all the way to the money it makes. So, a brand isn't really a thing, it's a feeling. I mean, think about Harley-Davidson. You don't just see a motorcycle, do you? No way. You probably imagine freedom, a little bit of rebellion, the open road. That whole collection of images and emotions, that's the brand. It's the soul of the product, something the company starts, but we, the consumers, ultimately define. But how do you put a price tag on a feeling? Well, that's where this next idea comes in, and it is absolutely crucial. It's called brand equity. This is the actual, measurable, financial value of that feeling. It's literally the extra cash people are willing to fork over for one product instead of a nearly identical one. Let's make this super simple. Just picture yourself in the laundry aisle. You've got Tide, and right next to it, you've got the generic store brand. Let's be honest, they both get your clothes clean. But Tide almost always costs more. So why do we do it? Why do we pay that premium? That little bit of extra money you pay, that is brand equity in action. It is the dollar value of decades of trust, of reliability, of that feeling you get that, yeah, Tide just works. We willingly pay more for that confidence. It's the ultimate proof that a brand's feeling has a very real price. Okay, so if this brand value is so important, how do companies actually create it from scratch? That brings us right to our second section, building a strong brand, or how you create a clear signal in a world full of noise. It all starts with something called brand positioning. This is all about the strategic work of carving out a very specific, unique little piece of real estate in your mind. It's about answering the question, when I think of X, what's the first brand that pops into my head? And companies usually do this in one of three ways. First, they can position by an attribute, like how Taco Bell basically owns the idea of late-night food. Or they can go by benefit, like how Eggo is the perfect solution for that chaotic morning rush. And then there's the most powerful way, positioning by values. Think about Ford's Built for Tough. That's not just about trucks. It's tapping into deep-seated American values of hard work and grit. All right, so you've built your brand, you've positioned it perfectly. What's next? Well, you grow. And that brings us to section 3, how iconic brands grow, going from just one product to a full-blown empire. And there are 4 main ways they do it. A company can stick with what it knows and do a line extension. Think of all the different holiday-flavored Oreos. Or they can take that brand name they've built and stretch it into a new product, which is a brand extension. That's like when Starbucks started selling their coffee in bottles at the grocery store. Then you've got the other options, like launching multi-brands, where one company owns competing brands, like how Nabisco has both Chips Ahoy and Oreo. Or they can start totally new brands in new categories, like when Starbucks bought Ethos Water. And really, the whole point of all this maneuvering is to build loyalty. But, not all loyalty is created equal. You have your switchers, who just buy whatever's cheapest. Then you've got shifting loyals who might flip between a couple of brands they like. Split loyals are faithful to a small handful of brands. And then you've got the holy grail, the hardcore loyals. These are the people who will only buy one brand, period. So which one are you? So now we're going to move from all this invisible, intangible stuff to the part you can actually touch. Section 4 is all about packaging, the first hello. This is the brand you can literally hold in your hands. On the most basic level, a package just has a job to do. It's got to store the product and keep it from getting smashed. It needs to offer convenience and safety, like those child-locked lids on Tide Pods. Sometimes it even becomes part of how you use the product, like a drinkable yogurt bottle. And of course, it has to have all that legal info on it. But that's the practical stuff. The real magic is in the perceptual benefits. That little blue box from Tiffany & Co., it screams luxury and status. The bright, funky colors on a LaCroix can just feel fun and refreshing. The clean, satisfying experience of unboxing a new Apple product, that's part of the brand. And packaging can even differentiate a product, like all that air in a chip bag that promises you won't get a bag full of crumbs. The package is basically the brand's silent salesman on the shelf. But that box, that silent salesman, it comes with a huge, huge responsibility. And that leads us to our final section, the responsibility in the box. Because it is so much more than just a container. And the numbers on this are pretty staggering. A McKinsey study found that more than half, over 50% of US consumers are highly concerned about the environmental impact of all this packaging. People are really starting to pay attention. The mountains of waste from all those boxes and plastics, it isn't an invisible problem anymore. And this puts companies in a really tough position. On one hand, the packaging creates that amazing customer experience we love. But on the other, it creates very, very real landfill waste. That's the central dilemma of modern branding right there. So what's the solution? Well, one of the most promising ideas is something called cradle-to-cradle design. The whole goal here is to just eliminate the idea of waste altogether. You design a package so that it can be reused or is 100% recyclable, basically imitating how nature works, where nothing is ever wasted. Companies like Boxed Water are already making big moves in this direction. And this responsibility, it's not just environmental, it's also ethical. The package is a promise to you, the customer. It has to be honest. It can't mislead you about the size, the quality, or the ingredients of what's inside. Because that trust, once you break it, it is almost impossible to get back. So you see, a brand is this incredibly complex thing, right? It stretches from an invisible feeling that exists only in our minds all the way down to a physical box sitting on a shelf. Which leaves us with one final question for you. The next time you're out shopping and you choose a product, are you just going to be looking at the brand? Or are you also going to look a little closer at the box it comes in?